A very good morning to one and all. Welcome back to module 2, that is internal alignment. In the last module we discussed about the pay model. I hope the pay model with its components is clear, and let's move on to the internal alignment. This module talks about. So let's see the highlights. The highlights of this module are, we have some 5 categories. So based on that, the first one is compensation strategy. It means how it works in the internal alignment. What are the structures that vary among the organizations? What shapes the internal structures? What are the strategic choices in designing the internal structures, and what are the consequences of the structures? So what do we understand by the term internal alignment? So internal alignment refers to the comparison of jobs, the skills, or maybe the different knowledge levels within the single organization. So when the name itself says in internal alignment, it has been aligned within the organization. So to understand this internal alignment, we have 3 common bases of understanding the pay structure, how that works in the organization. So the first one is the content of the work. When you say content of the work, it means that how the employees does the job in the organization. The second one is what type of skills and what type of knowledge is required to perform the job. And the third one is its relativity of achieving the organization objective. So always there are different understandings. So based on that, we need to understand that always we should be inclined towards the organization's objective. So based on these 3 bases of pay structure, so we can understand that this is a procedure that has been acceptable to the parties that are involved. Otherwise, they start, blaming or murmuring themselves, which results in huge turnover. So if the turnover happens, then the company will be under problem. So because they train the employees, in spite of after training the employees, if they leave the organization, then that becomes a problem. So to avoid that, to have a resistance for that kind of technologies, so you need to have a good employees who have a skills, who have a knowledge, and can perform a job to achieve the objective of the organization. So first one, compensation strategy with internal alignment. So in this, we are going to set the objective, because the first is when we know what is our objective, what is the company's objective, then we can perform, who can perform, what kind of job is to be performed, we can understand that. So it is an issue where the objective first comes, and it applies some strategic approach to the pay systems. And next comes is internal alignment. So always alignment addresses the relationship that exists inside the organization. And also it helps us to tell the responsibilities and the pay of different designations that are related in the organization. And also sometimes you can understand that even internal alignment is called as internal equity, which also refers to the pay relationship, as we told earlier, among the different jobs, skill sets, the competencies, but within the organization it addresses. So the relationships, they form a pay structure. What are those that they should include for? First one is supporting the organization's strategy. Next is support the workflow. It means through the process of what exactly the work that they are following, and which also should need a motivation or maybe motivate the behavior towards achieving the organization's objective. So pay structure, what do you mean by pay structure? So let's try to understand, and let's put it in this manner. This refers to the array of pay rates, or maybe a sequence of pay rates for different work, or maybe the different skills within the single organization. Definitely we know that all jobs requires different kind of energy and different kind of work to be performed. So based on that, even The skill sets also differs, and based on that the pay is being allotted to the employee. So the number of levels that the differentials takes place between pay levels as well as with the criteria what the company determines with those differences to understand the pay structure. Let's see one by one. So first one, so when you see here, we have taken an example of Lockheed, and this company has decided the 6 levels of engineering work that usually supports the company's strategy. Basically of researching how they design, how they develop, how they process, and how they advance those technology system. So you can see here from entry level to the recognized or maybe the top level, where they have, based on the experience they would have achieved. So we have 6 levels: engineer, senior engineer, systems engineer, lead engineer, advised engineer, and consultant engineer. So when there are different levels here, though the name remains the same, but here the work they perform would be definitely different, and the strategies that they follow is also a different one. So it's very important for us to understand how this organization strategy works. So in each company they have their own level of understanding that strategy. So second is supporting the workflow. So what do you mean by workflow? It is a process in which where products or maybe the goods or services that are delivered to the customer, and we know that always customer their satisfaction is ultimate for an organization. So the pay structures, they pay out to support the efficient flow, also that helps to work and takes the design and how it is being followed in the organization. Suppose let's take an example of Merilink here. So Merilink, they are the customer associates and they are the financial advisors. They have divided their clients into 5 groups, basically on their net worth. Like you can say investors, right? How affluent they are, what is their really net worth is, what is ultra net worth, and then how they got revamped themselves, and what kind of things that they structure to match accordingly to make the employees compensation. So this is what about workflow talks about. Workflow is basically a process of how people are trying to strive to keep the customer happy. So third one is motivating the behavior, and we know that motivation always we have 2 types. We know that intrinsic and extrinsic. So if based on your work, it's an external motivation that the company gives you. So when we talk about internal pay structures, these are the part of network returns. If the pay increases, the employee feels happy. If the promotions takes place, then they feel very happy. And if their work is very challenging work, then they take it up as a positive motivation. So the greater the responsibility, then the individual or an employee moves top to the organization, or maybe they receive very good aspect of getting all the things done in the organization. And the challenge is where we try to design such kind of structures. It's not so easy in designing the pay structures based on the what kind of workflow that we are trying to follow. So usually that will engage the people to help or to achieve the organization's objective also, if you get or if you motivate the people. And the organization structure will help you to clear the relationship between each job and the organization's objective. Suppose if we just take an example, if X person is working in the organization, he or she doesn't know what kind of job is to be performed or what kind of task is being assigned to them, then definitely they get demotivated. So that's why you need to be very clear in job description, job analysis, job evaluation also, which based on that we try to get motivated. So this is an example where we can try to understand how really that motivates an behavior of an employee in the organization. and also it should be very fair. It should not be biased one. So coming to the part of second one, how structures vary among the organization. So an internal pay structure definitely differs from organization to organization, and also it can be explained with the help of these three aspects. So let's see one by one. What number of levels of work? The second one is pay differentials between the levels, and the third one is criteria used to determine those levels and the differentials. So what do you mean by number of levels? So in a company, levels means it's a hierarchical level or hierarchical structure that will tell you how many levels that you need to report in the organization based on what kind of relationship that exists there. So some structures are more hierarchical with multiple levels, and others are compressed with few levels. It depends on the size of the organization. So let's take an example of like General Electric Plastics. Here they have given 5 levels, that is executive level, director level, leadership level, technical level, as well as the professional level. So along with that, the descriptions are given. It means that what being an executive that the employee has to perform. Being a director, what is the role and responsibilities? Being a leadership position, what kind of things to be performed. Like this, we have different levels. So in an organization, we need to understand that if the company has to pay, it means it depends on what kind of level. Next, moving on, differentials. When you say differentials, the differences that exist here is based on the pay differences among the different levels. So we assume that an organization has a compensation budget of set of amount where they distribute among its employees. Thus it follows the compensation budget which has been allocated and divided equally based on their company's strategies. It means that's why they say they have a different ways of distributing their profit. Okay, thus pay is also determined by maybe before distributing on what basis they define. Maybe based on the different levels as well as what in those levels based on knowledge or what kind of skills that the individual possesses, what is their working condition and how it has been valued or how it adds a value to the company. Yeah. So having said this, all based on knowledge, skills, working conditions or maybe values that we add to the company, the most important objective of these having these differentials is to motivate people also to get the best promotions that they have or to reach the higher level in their pay structures. So this is a pictorial representation where they say entry level what an employee gets here and in a top level what an employee gets. Coming to the part criteria. So criteria, on what basis it means the company pays. So it has certain set of content and value. What is this content and value is all about? So normally when we say work content, these both are very important for us to understand if you have to define the criteria. So work content and its value are the most common base for determining the internal structure. So here work content means the work that is being performed in a job and how they try to take that forward and based on what kind of task they have, what is the behaviors that they exhibit, what is the knowledge required to perform the job. Okay, so here the structures of job based on the ranks or maybe the skill sets that's been required. So that's why it is not so easy in nature. Sometimes the complexity of task also defines what is the work that the individual has to perform. Well, will the person has an ability of problem solving or maybe are they responsible to achieve the objective that's been allotted to them. So when you talk about value, so the value is the worth of the work, its relative contribution where that exists to achieve the organization's objective. So also these three are the important things where we need to understand to define the pay structure.